Hi there, this is Chris from MoneyHub, and this video looks at bad credit personal loans and the alternatives available. So just as a heads up, I've put together this video for the MoneyHub site because there are a lot of people now looking for loans who have bad credit, and they're not really happy with the interest rates being offered and the fees charged and everything like that. So the purpose of this guide is really just to walk you through the situation of if you do have bad credit. There are loans available beyond standard lending that can possibly help you out. So I just want to talk through bad credit, what it means, and the kind of ranges, and then we'll have a look at some of these options below. So if I just walk through the guide, we've put together this comprehensive guide. We say right up the front, please don't rush reading it. Bad credit is stressful, and of course you do want to get a loan or some sort of financial support quickly, but at the same time, there's a lot of things you can do to make your situation worse, and that's often applying for cheap, or it sounds like cheap money or fast money, but it has a long-term cost. So we always think that the best place to start, and if you haven't already, is to contact Work and Income New Zealand, just because you might be able to qualify for hardship assistance to cover any urgent costs and living expenses. Please, do consider doing this. I know that dealing with work and income is not always the easiest thing, but they are there to help you, and it can be a lot more beneficial than getting out some expensive debt. So our guide to bad credit loans, we're going to just take you through it right now and just look at the options here. So sort of know this first. This is really, really important. Bad credit loans come almost certainly with higher interest rates, high fees, and then sometimes ongoing management fees, and also the standard default fees. So while it's now helpful that the government was proactive and kept the total interest cost at 100% and the fees, so that if you borrow, say, $1,000, the maximum you'll repay is $2,000, the interest rates are still high. And even if the short term is 6 months, you could still pay like $1,000 if the interest rate's high enough. So just be aware of that. There's better protection than there was, prior to the last Labour government. But the situation is still, it's very expensive to take out debt that's sort of aimed at people with bad credit. Second to that, payday loans, truck loans. We think they're best avoided. We've got lots of guides around payday loans, cash advances, same-day loans, all that stuff. We just know that the interest rates are really, really high, and we don't want people to be stuck with that kind of debt. What we really want people to know is that there is lots of solutions, and setting up with a budget advisor. I know this sounds like not really your focus right now and your priority, but it does really help in the long term just to get things under control. They're all free, and there's lots of support out there. So I'd say have a look at Money Talks. You can see the link below, and just really get someone involved to help you, because otherwise this kind of debt situation will come, sort of day after day, week after week, and it's just not much fun when there's lots of success stories of people helping other people just to sort out their financial situation and live a much healthier life. Now, with regards to bad credit loans, just as a background, what is bad credit? Usually it's stemming from someone who hasn't paid their bills. Financing before can of cause that, but it can also be things like phone bills, payments for credit cards, all sorts of things like that. So just be aware that whatever you haven't paid in the past is going to stick, and that's just how companies and lenders make their call on to who to lend to. They look at what your credit history is. So it's going to be bad, for lending if you have bad credit, just because lenders don't like high risk. They like people who pay them back. So bad credit, that's generated by people not repaying or being delayed or late or all sorts of things, missing payments. So that's why the interest rates that you'll be offered will be higher than the standard ones, because you're deemed as a risk if you have bad credit. And can I get a bad credit loan if I have bad credit and currently don't have a job? Yes, someone will always lend to you in most circumstances, but the problem is the cost will just be very, very, very high. So there's a whole bunch of frequently asked questions here, and I suggest having a read through it, but the focus here really is on the pros and cons of taking out a bad credit loan. So the pros, you have very easy access to money, which is great. You can get the money quite quickly if someone will lend it to you. And bad credit loans are usually cheaper than payday lenders, so they won't be charging their 200% or arguably even their 50% on the lower end of payday loans. They'll be charging something maybe 30-40% plus fees. So that is cheaper, but I mean still it's very, very expensive objectively. And then thirdly to this, if you do take out a bad credit loan and you repay it, that can help improve your credit score. It's not going to be significant if you have a big history or a long history of missing payments, but it's certainly something to consider that will help you. The problems with bad credit loans is that you still need to make the monthly repayments. They can be very expensive depending on the size of the loan that you borrowed and how long you borrowed it for. The interest rates are very high because you're just seen as a risk, and the fees are very high as well. So we've done a little summary table here which is worth looking at, and you can see what the credit rating is or the credit score or sort of category. And so if you're like a poor credit, maybe you're going to be offered like an interest rate of 75%, and this is clearly for something which is short term, but it does make a difference. You can see the monthly repayment for someone who's listening in that high end, in the poor, much higher than the person who's rated excellent. That doesn't look so significant, but then you look at the total interest cost, and it's like $171 or $260 versus $1,900 and even $5,500. And the horrible thing is, these aren't made up numbers. These are the situation out there in New Zealand, because that's what people have to pay to borrow money when the credit is seen as bad. So just moving on for that, how do you apply for it? The best approach is not to apply for more than you need, because otherwise it may be an issue with affordability and even just making the repayments. So you need to work out how much you need to borrow. Don't be too mean with it, because you don't want to have to take out another loan for whatever reason you need the loan later on. So make sure that you have enough, but at the same time don't over borrow. And then what you need to also look at is going to be the interest rate and the fees. Make sure you understand those, and make sure that you add on the fees as well as the interest rate, and look at the total cost of the loan. Where things go wrong for people is that they don't understand the total cost of the loan. They see an interest rate, they didn't really look at the fees, they thought they might be added on, weren't really sure. Do you pay them at the end? What happens? You need to compare any old loan that you're looking at with other loans, and making sure that that all the fees are included, that the interest rates are comparable, so that you get the total cost of borrowing. Otherwise you're only going to get a part cost, and it's going to make comparing very problematic. So make sure all the fees and the interest rates are included for the whole term of the loan, then you can make a full comparison. Now finally, bad credit loans don't sound that great to start with, and then really the question can be asked, well, do you actually need the loan? I mean, what are you borrowing the money for? This is not really asked that often, but many times people have taken out loans for wants rather than needs, and that just creates a large expense to pay back later on, which limits your sort of day-to-day options in the short term. So if you are comfortable with proceeding, looking at some bad credit loans, then you will need a local address. You need to apply and give your total income, and you need to prove that with bank statements usually, and then you need to list out your general expenses, all under the CCCFA guidance for the lenders. So that is really the starting point there. but then you need to also figure out the repayments, how you're going to do those. And so the options are usually direct debit and then automatic payment. And you can, in some cases, make manual payments if you want to do that. But of course, that does require you to be conscious of when the payments are due and not missing them, so you get racked up more charges or more sort of late fees or default fees. So that is really the kind of a process to apply and then get offered a rate and then draw it down and start to repay it. We know that there is far more alternatives available than what lenders will tell you, because of course they want you to get the loan with them. But I just want to sort of walk you through these alternatives to bad credit loans, and because I just know that these do exist, they are popular, and if there's any way to kind of minimize the amount of debt that you're taking on, then that can only be a good thing. So let's just go through the first one here. Hardship assistance, that's from Work and Income, so they can provide grants there. It's definitely worth contacting them to make sure that you're on the same page, that you have some potential to apply, because if you are looking for bad credit, it could be the case that you've worked with Work and Income in some capacity before or been a client of theirs. So just contact them. It doesn't cost anything. I know people, as I said, get slightly anxious with dealing with them, but this can potentially save you from taking on another loan or a high interest loan that you don't really want to do, and then have the long-term effects of paying it back. The other alternative to a bad credit loan is a high interest payday loan. These are also known as same-day loans and quick loans and all that kind of stuff. We've done an extensive review, which you can see down there. We always say that these are high risk, high cost, and not a typical solution to a bad credit loan. You may also be able to access your KiwiSaver if you desperately need the money and have no other means to raise it and don't want to go into further debt. Just have a look at that, see what you need the money for. If it's something that is minimum living expenses related, then that's going to be more favorably looked at, rather than I want to upgrade my car but I've got a bad credit. That's not going to be seen as a minimum living expense, probably. I'm not the I'm not the trustee, or I'm not a manager of the KiwiSaver a fund that you're in, but it is something to consider, that whilst it sounds like you can access it under hardship or some sort of limitation in your finances, actually getting the money is not always successful. Now, you can go into secured and guarantor loans. These are loans where you actually have something secured over them, so if you don't pay it, that will be repossessed. That is usually medium risk, primarily because people who secure stuff have something to secure their own property, and they'll keep trying to repay. I mean, it doesn't have to be property in the terms of like a home, but it can be some sort of some sort of car usually, or some sort of valuables that you have. So when things are secured over that, if you don't pay them, then they get repossessed or taken away from you to meet the security or to pay back the debts. So just be aware that that is what you're signing up to when you go for a secured loan. And then guarantor loans is when someone else known to you will guarantee the loan should you not be able to pay it. So those are options as an alternative to bad credit loans. They're likely to have lower interest, but it's just worth checking out, and like a case-by-case basis. See what your options are, and that should pretty much set the path. Credit unions are also providing lower interest finance, so they do help people with bad credit, and they're kind of a sit-down type of approach, talk to people face-to-face, but worth kind of considering them because, it's likely that their interest rates are a bit lower. You have a relationship, you can kind of state why you need it, and sort of plan accordingly from there. You could also talk to your bank. That is one thing, and also look at a hardship application for any kind of credit cards or personal loans, just because if you do have these debts dragging around, like, it is hard to clear them. So if you can do a hardship application which says that you're in financial hardship and these are the reasons why, then you'll be able to rearrange your debts and hopefully reduce the ongoing cost of repaying them. Another option to bad credit loans is looking at using a credit card. That's usually around a low risk, that's a low risk strategy. At the same time, the interest rates can still be 20, 25, 27%. So that may help, but if you don't have access to a credit card or your credit card's maxed, then you're not going to get very far with that, and you'll be stuck back looking at the bad credit loans or some alternatives to them. Free and discounted loan providers. So I only have good things to say about both the Good Shepherd and the Ngāi Tangata Microfinance Trust. The reason is they really help people try and solve their debts and pay them back and be happy. And it is not an easy thing to do, because you've got to deal with a lot of parties and a lot of different special interest groups, i.e. lenders. But if you can get into a relationship with either Good Shepherd or the Ngāi Tangata Microfinance, then they will help you. So that's a really strong way, or strong sort of a strong option to follow, and something that we hear lots of positive reports about. Another option here is borrowing from friends and family. This does have medium risk to it. You might not be able to repay, it may take too long for the repayments, and then your friends or family get annoyed. So it's not a walk in the park there by any means, but it certainly is an option to taking on expensive debt. And then another option, of course, we suggest that people remain highly skeptical of such operations, are the door sellers and the truck sellers offering money. We're going to say that they probably are a little bit predatory in their practices from what we've seen in the media. Of course, that's not applying to every one of them, but just take those with some caution, because they may promise a lot, but yes, the guidance out and the media out, the stories out, are definitely not positive. So understanding your credit history, there's plenty of ways to get your information, and we've listed 3 of the providers here, so you can click through and apply and register to get your credit history. By doing so, you'll be able to challenge anything that you don't actually agree with. You can isolate instances of bad credit and sort of move forward. The more information that you have, the better you can respond. So that's really it for bad credit loans. We haven't listed possible options at this point, largely because we want people to make an informed choice and look at the alternatives. We don't really want people clicking out quickly to lenders. Saying that, we have to face the fact that people do want a solution. So in due course, we probably will be adding a short list of trusted bad credit focused lenders, and that's just for us to go and do some research and see exactly, talk to the people in the industry, namely some of the charities that are working with the likes of budget advisors and people in financial situations that need some help. So thanks very much for watching, and if you have any questions about bad credit loans and the alternatives, please list them in the comments below. We're very responsive in answering them, and we just like to share what we know and also look up anything that's not clear. Thanks so much.